Welcome to episode 2 of From Scribble to Screen. We're going to be talking with Francisco today, and by we, I mean I'm going to be talking with Francisco today. He's concept artist. He's worked on a bunch of Guillermo del Toro movies, and yeah, he's going to talk today about Pacific Rim, the concept work that you did on Pac Rim, I've heard you call it, which sounds so cool. Like, oh, it's Pac.
I mean, it's the other name is too mouthful now.
Pacific Rim. No, but it's a cool movie. A lot of people loved it. I loved it when I saw it. We won't talk about the sequel today. We'll stick to I believe the first one was because you've done a lot of concept work for it, right?
Yeah, I did for the first one. The second one didn't happen. With Guillermo, it happened later with other directors. But we did some development for the second one as well.
Okay.
But the first one is the one that it was bigger.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You did storyboards?
Yeah, I did concept or visual development and storyboards.
Okay.
For that movie. And yeah, pretty much, we were like a small, like, let's call it like core team of designers. And we did all the development when Guillermo pitched the movie. I mean, Legendary offered the movie to him, but we needed to pitch visually what Guillermo had in mind. So pretty much the same people that we did that development, we just cascade to develop the whole movie. And of course we have the production department that those are the ones, those artists that they build the sets and everything. But we were kind of like concept, a small group, designing the more complicated stuff or whatever Guillermo had in his mind.
How many people were on there? Like,
we were I think like let's say from 7 to 10 people, no more than that.
Just designing the whole movie, basically.
Well, the main things, like the robots, like the kaijus, the pods or like the controls inside the robots, and kind of like the main stuff that Guillermo was more attached to, but like the sets and some of the props and some of the other stuff, it was being designed by the production department.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so you were like handling the big robot stuff, all the big the big fights, that kind of things, and letting them know all the
exactly. Yeah, mostly, I guess all the stuff that later will be more like visual effects.
Yeah.
Like CGI, like the robot monsters, the fights, or like flying vehicles or stuff that is not real.
Yeah.
We were mostly doing that. Yeah.
I remember I think when we first met years ago, the one that I think I know you had designed Cherno Alpha, the big Russian one, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had my hand in pretty much every robot, but that one is the one that from the beginning I did a sketch and kind of like end up being kind of like the same robot.
Okay.
It didn't change much.
How often does that actually happen though? Like where you
well, at least happened to me once in every movie that I work,
Okay.
I mean, you work in a bunch of designs. Let's say you work in 20, 25 designs, and maybe it just happened to me in one.
Yeah, it's like that's the one you stick to, right?
Yeah, I mean the other ones, there's always like a big influence, but the way that we usually work with Guillermo is that, let's say I design a robot that Guillermo likes, and then we pass it to another artist to do kind of his take on the same robot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it even passed through like 2 or 3 different hands, and maybe at the end come back to me to do like the final pass.
Oh, okay.
But every artist is like adding something cool to the process or to the design. So at the end, you end up with something that it looks like the stuff that you designed at the beginning, but not quite exactly the same.
That's pretty cool though. Like, it's definitely collaborative to get there, right? To get to the ending.
But it's a cool process because a lot of artists, because we come from different backgrounds or different cultures, they throw or put something on the table that probably you will never or it never occurred to yourself
Yeah.
or myself, and but they're like good ideas. And then at the end, I don't know if like if I have the chance to do like a pass, almost like you imprint back your style or the thing, but keeping other cool
All the
elements. Yeah, exactly.
that's actually really really cool. I because that's the thing to me, like I think is missed a lot of times with these with a lot of concept art is that it's not just like, oh, so and so did the concept art and so he did start to finish. Even Cherno Alpha, which is like you're like, oh, it's just a robot with a nuclear head. It's like no. It's a little bit of mine, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Each one's just adding that little bit of flavor. It's
Yeah,
a lot of
exactly.
cooks in the kitchen, but in a positive way, right? It's not just
Yeah, but because let's say if there's always Guillermo behind everything, so we have the cook, but he decides what goes, what doesn't,
okay,
so at the end you have something that is coherent. It's
yeah,
not just like a bunch of like
guys throwing in.
stuff that
It's
doesn't
like
make
more
sense.
carrots, more onions. Just
Yeah,
throw
yeah,
maybe a little bit on the
exactly.
top.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
I think what was cool about Pacific Rim, I remember I saw it in the IMAX, and I remember one of the big cool things was we kind of knew what was coming, but we had no idea what was coming. You know what I mean? It was we hadn't gotten an American giant monster movie in ever, just about, right? Since what, Matthew Broderick and his Godzilla in name only thing. Uh,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so showing up, like even hearing the first time when they're like, "Oh, it's kaiju," I was like, "I haven't heard that word in years." Okay, like I'm in for giant monsters. Yes, please. Because you had helped design, you said a lot of the kaiju. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yes. They
I
were
love.
like, yes. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I love the gorilla one. That was the one to me that the big old beefy. You
Yeah,
know.
but it was the same thing. We were like pretty much everyone drawing designs
Yeah.
and see what was there, and even though I did a little bit of on some of the monsters, I think I was more into the robot
Yeah.
stuff. And that one you like, it was designed by an artist called David Meng.
Okay.
Yeah, it was entirely him.
Oh
I
well.
think
Okay.
I think the one that it was more me from all the kaijus probably was it you don't see it too much in the movie, but it's one that looked like a crocodile that is underwater, and I think
Oh, okay. With the
they
mouth that spreads open.
yeah, but
Yeah.
they kill it like right away,
Yeah. It didn't last long.
and then yeah, and then the other one that I did that I think that was pretty much me is the that fetus or the baby kaiju that is inside the other monster.
Oh yeah, that gets choked out, and
Yeah,
it's Ron Perlman, right?
yeah, I designed that one, but I have to give credit to Guy Davis that he
Okay.
designed the big one.
Okay. Yeah.
So mine it was like a derivation or like based
It
on
was
the
it was
other
the
one.
it was the little baby one, right? That's
Yeah,
oh, that's really 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 cool. No, I think the kaiju designs were really really solid. I think nobody was again. I hate to bring it up like this, but I think no one was really expecting how weird those monsters were in a U.S. film
yeah,
specifically. We've gotten really accustomed, I feel, to a weird monster in a Japanese movie or Japanese anime. Especially if you start going through the history of all the Godzillas, you know,
yeah,
his rogues gallery. But I feel like we'd never really gotten anything like that in the U.S. where suddenly we're getting. I wonder actually, like you said, with having all these people from different cultures, adding a little bit of taste to each of the monsters, how much that like gave us these kind of bizarre designs for what I would
yeah, and
the,
also I think one of the reasons they were like that bizarre or like that is that when Guillermo started like pitching to us like the movie and I remember he had the idea that the kaijus were not just like natural monsters, let's call them, but they were designed like bioweapons.
because they
So
because the makers or whatever they were called
yeah,
engineered them. Yeah.
exactly. So even the markings that they had, it was more like codes and stuff
Oh,
for
that's
what
cool.
kind of kaiju was. So, and that's why they were like weird, because it's almost like, oh, let's add more eyes, let these characteristics, this, and yeah, and I think that was our kind of our goal to design this.
That they were manufactured, not evolved,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
and to be like really weird, because yeah, usually the in the Japanese movies you see monsters that, oh, this looks like a shark, or like a, I mean, they're like weird ones too,
Yeah.
like really really weird ones.
Like Gigan. I'm a big Gigan
Yeah,
guy,
yeah,
and
exactly.
with his chainsaw stomach. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But but we didn't want it also to look that goofy, like. But anyway,
But I
yeah,
love that, and I think that's a cool aspect. Like that's actually something that I hadn't really heard or even thought about with
yeah. But
those monsters.
I
Like,
think when when we were doing the movie, I think the monster guy to go was Guy Davis and Wayne Barlow,
okay, yeah, yeah, I've heard,
because
yeah, I've heard of
yeah,
both those
yeah,
guys. Yeah.
exactly. They're really great designers, and I think they were bringing all the weird kaiju stuff to the table, and that's why I was more in the, let's say, the human division,
Yeah.
kind of designing the robots and the military equipment and the mechanics of like how everything will work and all that.
Which in the first movie specifically, those suits, super cool looking suits. And I know you had a hand a bit in the design of those things. I know you have a little bit on like some of the shoulder stuff you told me about, with like how they designed how the shoulder worked. I think ILM had to do that, right?
Yeah, it's just like like we wanted the mechs or the robots to be kind of to feel real, like.
Yeah,
So sometimes when you're designing, you design the like the main shapes and the the
the
appearance, or
profile or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, but sometimes you don't go that deep into all the mechanics and how they're going to move.
Yeah.
So we were kind of passing the designs to ILM, and they were figuring out a lot of the mechanics. We'll give them like the general idea, like, oh, this is like a socket that moves like this and that, and it's articulated here and there. But because the size of this robot, they wanted to add like tiny details, and you'll see things inside and all that. They had to figure out a lot of that, and that's what that was a really hard job to do.
They
Uh,
reminded me of the old Robotech drawings where or like BattleTech even, where they'd be like hyper detail the cockpit and every
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit.
We
Oh,
did. There was this artist called Hugo Martin, and he's a really good painter. So I remember he was taking the designs of the robots and doing these super high resolution images that you could close
oh,
and
very
see
cool.
all the rivets and all the little details, because they were like so big that it was like overwhelming just to think like how it will look if a pilot is standing next to like all that detail in that area. So yeah.
Because yeah, like all that stuff has to be manufactured. I think back to the Batman with the tumbler, right? So they had kit bashed the department had kit bashed that model, and then when it was made big, what was kind of funny was I know they even had like where some of the glue marks were. They had just enlarged them, from the
Oh
original model because yeah, like you don't think about it at scale. Like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do a big thing, and it's gonna have this big giant chest plate. You're like, you got to rivet that, man. That's got to be attached, and it ain't glue that's going to hold that guy on there. You're going to have to.
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
that's cool that,
And here it was a little bit of the challenge, like
yeah,
everything was like so big in the scale that we needed to figure out like a lot of those details.
yeah, because yeah, when you're going that big and you have like, yeah, you've got the guy there, you've got to show the detail because he's going to see it, right? And it's going to be on screen. It's not going to just be some
Yeah,
like,
and we designed. I remember like some parts that were inside the mechs or
uh-huh,
the Jaegers.
the Jaegers, yeah.
For where I think a lot of that was cut out of the movie,
Hmm.
because there was a part where I think was Gypsy Danger. It was like open,
Yeah.
and you could see the mechanics, and even had like some kind of heart thing.
Oh, okay,
Not
that's
not like
cool.
a real heart, but like some mechanic
Mechanical heart,
that
yeah,
looked like a heart.
yeah.
And Yeah, I think they end up not seeing in the movie, but yeah, but we did a lot of also the interior parts, and
That's really great.
and I remember I think there is a part in the movie where you see the like one of the foot of the robots
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah, we needed to design a lot of that, you know, detail. So how it will look, when someone is standing near.
How long were you working on that movie? Like from start to finish?
I think it was close to 2 years. Yeah, because just the pitch and you know, uh, the initial the development that we did, it was almost like 6 months,
Yeah.
and then we start production, and just the production, it was like almost like a year,
Wow.
and then I was a little bit in post.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like because my background, I move through the production. I start with development, and then half of the production we were doing the storyboards, and then later I was, if they needed to, like an extra design for VFX that was not at the beginning, I was doing it. So yeah.
Jeez Louise, man. So you were, yeah, you were there. I'm not gonna say start to finish, but pretty darn close start to finish, right? That's
Yeah, well, at least I was, yeah, almost to the point when they were like finishing shooting the movie.
yeah. Oh wow.
Probably I came back a little bit before, but then I was, here in LA, and then they came back from Canada because they shot it in Toronto,
Yeah.
and then they were doing post and the Warner uh,
Okay. Yeah.
lot, and yeah, I had to go there on like on a daily
Jeez.
basis to do things.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff.